Welcome to the Business SOS podcast. This is Rich Sierra, President of the Florida Small Business Legal Center. This is episode 113 of the Business SOS podcast. Very excited that you continue listening to me. I hope the information that I provide to you is helpful to you. So what I want to do this week is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to finish what we did last week with respect to fatal mistakes in discovery, and then I'm going to pivot to a different subject. So you're going to have kind of a two-part podcast today, but I hope that you'll find information informative as well. So last week we talked about fatal mistakes in discovery. We went over a number of them. And just to recap what we did last week, we talked about what is discovery. We're talking specifically paper discovery, requests for production, interrogatories, and requests for admissions. And how important it is to complete those thoroughly and completely. And what happened, there are some mistakes that are made that are what I call unforced errors in litigation, that it can be avoided with some being a little bit careful in the discovery process and how you respond to them, and then focus today on the responses to those and some mistakes that are made that can be avoided. And then some of them are, I'll just give you an example. Missing deadlines, we talked about that, the importance of making sure that you meet the deadline. If you cannot meet it for whatever reason, tell your attorney so attorney can request a proper extension. And usually you have 30 days from the time you are served the discovery to respond to the discovery. And sometimes you need more time. You have life to deal with, you have responsibilities. Sometimes there are a lot of documents you got to go through, and you just don't have the time. It's important to tell your attorney no right off the bat. Listen, I need more time for this. And also not to provide your attorney the documents on the 29th day of the deadline, because your attorney needs some time to go through them, organize them, Bates number them in case of documents, index them, and then prepare the response that has to be provided to the other attorney. So it is important to agree on the timeliness. When would you be providing it? We talk about incomplete and evasive interrogatory answers as well. It's important that you understand the question that is being asked and answer the question thoroughly, but only answer the question. Don't go in different topics or tangents that are not related to the answer. That's important to consult with your attorney, provide a draft of your answer so your attorney can tell you and help and guide you in whether or not that is a proper response. We talk about failing to produce all documents. And this is very important, and I probably will give you an example as well as we move forward, and how important it is to produce all the documents. And it's some things that are usually commonly overlooked are not providing emails that are requested, or providing incomplete threads without the attachments, not providing text messages or incomplete text messages when they're provided, accounting records, social media posts. Those are important. A lot of times, especially dealing with contract disputes, it's about what was the interpretation of some discussions that took place. And either in a contract dispute, it's very common that somebody accuses somebody else of another party breach of contract, either when the terms that are clearly defined are not followed or not met, or when there's some misinterpretation of what the obligations are between the parties. And one party perceives that something was breached, but the other party does not, and that's where the conflict comes in. So understanding how those relationships began, but also how the communication and the practice that the parties had in communicating in the course of business, is important to understand what really happened, or to try to the best that we can. But those text messages and emails provide the story. So it is important to provide those documents. Mistake number 4, we talk about careless responses to requests for admissions. Again, your attorney will guide you on that. And this one is important to meet that deadline of 30 days, simply because if you do not submit your request for admissions within the 30-day period, they can be deemed admitted. And usually requests for admissions are sent to really made you commit to a specific answer for the purposes of filing a motion for summary judgment or try to finish the case against you. So it's important to understand what requests for admissions are and how important it is to not be careless admitting something that should not be admitted to. And your attorney can help you with that. Mistake number 5, we talk about over-explaining without guidance. And here it's important to read the question carefully and answer the question that is asked thoroughly, but don't over-explain something that you have not been asked. There will be a time for that on the deposition if indeed it's taken, but in the interrogatory, over-explaining is a problem. And again, it's important, and you see me saying that your attorney will help you with that, because it leads me to another mistake that I see happening sometimes with pro se parties, primarily parties that do not have the guidance of an attorney, is that they answer discovery without an attorney or answer a lawsuit without an attorney, which I believe is a huge mistake. If you're in a litigation, any type of business litigation or litigation in general, if you have an attorney on the other side, you're already outmatched. You are already outmatched. So it is not a good idea for you to litigate a case without an attorney, especially when you have an attorney litigating representing the other party. In the case of small claims, you do not need an attorney. But if you're a corporate entity, which most small businesses are, anything above county court in Florida, anything controversy over $15,000, you need an attorney representing you. So that's not something you can do yourself, but sometimes attorneys, individuals go online and they try to, see if they can wing it. It's just not going to work. So having an attorney with you is very helpful. It's essential, I believe, in litigation. Another mistake that I see happening is contradictory responses. When you're dealing with a lot of documents, it's important that if you are defending a case or you're pursuing a case, you're prosecuting a case, that you keep in mind what you said on the defenses or the complaint, and that the answers that you provide are consistent to what you said on those pleadings. That's very important. Okay, if you're saying that, in the case, I'm just using this as an example, that, the car that was damaged, the day that it was, somebody hit you, the day it was raining, for example, and the person ran the red light, and then you put an interrogatory that that particular day was not raining, it was a clear day, and the person passed a stoplight, a stop sign. So it is important, consistency on the interrogatories with the pleadings is very important, and also consistency with the discovery that you have. And I know that sometimes people may make mistakes simply because there's a lot of documents, and you're talking about, in some cases, the events that led to the lawsuit happened perhaps, 2 or 3 years ago. So memories do fade. So, and you're trying to recall the events that took place so many years ago. So it's important to, when you look at the documents, you be consistent in the responses, so that way you don't get caught in a contradiction that will be used in a deposition, and you be confronted with that contradiction. Okay, so it's important to do that. And another mistake, and I'm going to finish with this one and for this segment before I move to the next segment, ignoring attorney's requests. I understand, and I don't take it personal, that many of you do not want to hear from your lawyer. I get it. So you hear from us, people get anxiety. People say, "What now? How much money do I owe? What happened?" Said bad news. We understand it. Okay. People don't come to us when things go well. People come to us when things do not go well. Okay. So, but at times we need to contact you for the purposes of providing us information. We know the law, you know the facts. So if there's a information that we need to request from you regarding discovery, and we tell you we need to have this in 10 or 15 days to max so we can prepare this responses, it is important for you to comply with that and go ahead and provide it to us. And at times when we submit that, it's just ignored. We don't hear back, and we send another email. Then it is ignored, or the phone calls are not returned. And what happens, you create then a calendar crunch, because time doesn't stop for anyone. So we have something due for you, for your case in 30 days that we have to provide, okay, to the other side, and you do not provide the information, you do not provide the answers to the interrogatories, request for production of documents, then it creates pressure not only on you, but also on the attorney, which could cost you more money, because then we need to reset the calendar. We need to go ahead and ask for a favor to the other side, to the attorney, and ask the attorney, would you mind, can I get an extension of time of 20 days to respond to a discovery, because I need information from the client. Most of the time, the attorneys complied, say, yeah, not a problem. And we may enter an agreed order, or we may not, depending on the relationship, the professional relationship the attorneys have. They said, okay, you send me an email confirming, and we'll just move the calendar. It happens, okay? But those things, you need to ask for a favor. You have to reciprocate at some point, because they may need an extension as well. And you cannot be a hard ass and saying, I'm not going to give it to you, because that will be remembered. So it's important to have that professional relationship with counsel, because things do happen. Okay, but if we don't have to ask for that favor, I prefer not to ask for it. But it's something that is created, unfortunately, by the client by not replying to attorneys, not communicating, and ignoring their requests. And then if you have too many of these, you're not going to ask for a second favor. Okay, if you go ahead and do not reply, do not comply, then it puts in an attorney in a situation that he may have to threaten to withdraw because you're not cooperating with your own case. You want to avoid that conflict. If there are circumstances which prevent you from responding, let the attorney know. If it's something medical, something that you're out of the country, some extraneous circumstances which will prevent you from complying, let the attorney know. The attorney will make a determination how to handle it, and go ahead and whether address it by motion or calling opposing counsel, explaining what's happening, and see how can that be resolved. But you have to go ahead and respond to it. If you don't respond to it, again, then the other attorney might file a motion to compel discovery. The judge may give you 10 days. And if you don't reply in 10 days, then there might be sanctions, and possibly you can have your pleading stricken for not cooperating with the litigation process, not obeying orders from the court. So it escalates, something as simple as responding to documents. Okay, so this is the end of the segment for the fatal mistakes that to avoid in discovery. And so I want to go to a different subject now. Okay, and it's completely different. So I thought I'd mix it up and do something else. So I get a lot of calls from startups, people starting a business, or people that are entering a lease, usually starting a brand new business. And it is interesting to me how many people do not understand their own business. Let me explain. And what I'm saying is this, is that when I start talking about their business, they want me to review a lease. It's okay, review the lease. And I said, okay, what exactly are you going to be doing? And they explained to me. And or they asked me, should I open an LLC? Should I open a corporation? But they already have a lease document for me to review. I said, let's take it a step back. And I often ask the question, and based on the question they're asking me, so I know they're very basic, for somebody who's starting a business, I kind of know they're new to the business world. And nothing wrong with that. Everybody starts somewhere. We just don't learn this by osmosis, learning mostly by mistakes. So I asked the question, have you done a business plan? And they say no. And I said, well, tell me more about how you plan to make money in your business. And they explain it to me. I've used the example of an ice cream shop, and often, and I stick to that because it's very simple to explain and simple to understand. And that's about how many daily sales you got to have in order for you to break even. And I don't get an answer to that. How many employees do you plan to have? What are the hours of operation? Okay. How many customers are there in the plaza you plan to have? Usually it's a strip mall. Do you have a restriction that you'll be the only ice cream shop in that plaza, or will you allow competitors? They don't know that. Do you have a projection of your operating expenses? They don't know that. Okay. So I at that point I kind of take a step back. And I say, okay, we need to talk about this a little bit more, because yes, I can read the lease for you and I can tell you what to look for, what provisions there are, what should be concerned about, okay, and negotiate some terms if they're negotiable, okay. But I have a big concern here that if you go into this lease for whatever terms they are, with how much money there is, you have to pay, without understanding how you're going to monetize your business, how you intend to generate the revenue, okay, you might end up in a situation that you might be out of business simply because of poor planning. And so some people say, okay, let's talk about that. Some people say, no, I want you to review the lease anyway. I go ahead and review the lease. Okay. It's not my job to be their business planner, business coach, but I certainly want to bring some questions, simply because I hate for somebody to enter into a 3 or 5 year lease and then call me 6 months later, hey, listen, we're getting evicted, which has happened. So today I want to talk a little bit more about, the importance of a business plan, and also I'm going to share with you a resource to get free templates for a business plan and free resources, including a mentor. And I want you to, if you're in the car, don't write this down, but maybe later, and write it down at home. And it's going to be score.org. And again, I have not spoken to them. They're not a sponsor. This is a nonprofit organization, and it is free to you. It started as Service Corps for retired executives. It's been around for many years. And what they do, we used to have retired executives that volunteer their time to help business owners to be mentors to business owners, help them from a startup to different stages of their business. Okay. If you're going to, going to a different new sport, most likely you get a coach. You're going to go to pickleball. Maybe you get a pickleball coach to help you. Tennis. I do martial arts. I'm very excited that a few months ago I started jiu-jitsu again, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I have a coach. So I want to get better at the sport. So in business, it's a good idea to have a business coach. This is free for you. So the website is score.org, SCORE.org. Okay. You have a tremendous amount of resources there, including business plan templates. It gives you templates for finance, operations, cash flow analysis, financial analysis. There are a lot of different templates there for you and resources, but more importantly, you can request a mentor. And if you're starting your business now, it might be a good idea to consider getting a mentor. Okay. Business is difficult. Business is a challenge. There's so many things that can go wrong, and you will learn that the first few years. Okay. Most businesses fail within the first 5 years. Okay. I will say that they fail probably sooner. And there are a number of reasons why they fail. And why am I talking about business planning when this is a podcast for, legal mistakes to avoid? Because there's a correlation between the lack of business planning and legal problems. When you start your business, you go with a great deal of optimism. I am guilty of that, okay? That's the reason we're going to start our own business in the first place. We want to be independent. We want to do it, we feel we can do it better than anybody else. But with that, optimism sometimes clouds some degree of rational thought. And when that happens, you're not thinking clearly because you're optimistic about what's going to happen in the future. Going into business by yourself is an act of faith. The reality is we don't know what's going to happen on the other side. Every day is going to be different, and perhaps that's the exciting part of it, maybe the scary part of it. But there's some things that we can do in order to increase the probability of success on the business. Okay? One of them is a business plan. Okay? What is included in a business plan? Again, don't be intimidated by the thought of writing a business plan. Okay? There are templates, fill in the blanks, but I'll tell you what should be included there. And again, I'm not giving you this as a business coach. This is my own opinion. And there are business coaches out there who do this for a living. Some of them are paid. I gave you a resource of one that you can request one on a voluntary basis, at least as a startup. Then as you grow, you might want to get a paid business coach to help you go from one stage to the other. And that is fine. I know many colleagues of mine that in law firms that have business coaches that have been very successful at it. So at the very least, you should understand your capital requirements of the startup of your business. Okay, you should have at the very least, okay, how much money do I need to start this business? Okay, I have a lease, for example. Lease is going to require me to provide a deposit. Usually they ask for first month, last month, and a security deposit. So you have that to start before you even make your first dollar. Okay, you have insurances that you most likely will have to purchase as well. What are those insurances? You got to get a quote for insurances. Okay, there's, depending on the type of business you have, you need to have certain level of infrastructure. Okay, you'll need to have some technology, some computers you will have to purchase as well. Okay, so you see how things add up. Now, you might have employees, maybe not. If you have employees, then you got to have funding to be able to pay the salary of that employee. And I'm not talking about we're going to pay them 1099 to save money. We talked about that. That's not a good idea in a different podcast. Okay, so don't try to, if you're going to start your business, don't shortcut payroll if you're going to have an employee. It's just not a good idea, and they come back to haunt you later on. Okay, you also have operational expenses. If you're starting a business, the marketing budget probably is going to be larger because you're starting out, nobody knows about you. So you have to get the word out. So what is that marketing plan going to look like? Okay, how are you going to promote your business? You plan to advertise it locally? You plan to get a brand new website? You plan to get a social media manager? You plan to do social media by yourself? You plan to do videos? What is that going to look like, and how much money is that going to cost to do that? So that goes into that initial capital. You might have to purchase business cards, maybe some promotional material, specialty advertising, pens, cups, whatever that case may be. That goes into that capital, initial capital. You also need to have, you have to pay yourself. You have to live. So how much money do you need to set aside in order to cover your expenses while this business gets off the ground? Or do you have a different source of income that will support you while the business gets off the ground? What is the time that will take from opening the business to when you get your first check, your first revenue? If it's a week, is it a day? Depending on the type of business you're in, what does a sales cycle looks like? Those are questions, and I'm just telling you those at the top of my head, that you need to ask yourself, and you can put them in writing, okay? But you need to understand how the business makes money, the frequency, and when the payments are received to your bank account. Okay. And that is important. So if you're going to accept credit cards, for instance, so nothing wrong with that. You need to open a merchant account with that credit card, you know, with a merchant account, with a merchant company. Okay, what is the percentage they take out? From the time that you charge the card, when will those funds be available to you? Okay, so at the end of the day, what is important is that the money that you collect ends up in your bank account. Is it 1 business days, 2 business days after the sales cycle, after you close that particular day transaction? Understand that. Depending on the type of business you're in, and this happens a lot with online businesses, and depending what company you use for dropship or merchant, sometimes as a startup, merchants hold a certain percentage of your sales, okay? Just to cover in the case there are chargebacks. If it's something that you're selling items online, okay, and there's a lot of drop ship, a lot of sales that you send out, you know, you might have a situation where the merchant said, okay, we'll go ahead and process this order for you. However, we're going to hold back, say 10% for 60 days to just in case that there are chargebacks, so we can cover those chargebacks. So what is going to be from the sale that you make, what is going to be your net revenue, your net gross revenue after it goes to the merchant account? You're not going to get 100% of it. You're going to get maybe 70%, 97%. And then from there, you have other operational expenses. So you have to do some pro forma, some projections of sales. You have to do marketing plans. All that goes into business planning. And it can seem overwhelming, but it's worth doing the exercise. Your job as a business owner is to try to the degree that you can, prevent surprises. There will be surprises along the way, don't worry, okay? The business plan is not going to keep you away from surprises, but to the degree that you can plan for them, you're going to be much prepared and better off than if you decide to go and wing it from the hip. That's not going to work in most cases, okay? You got to have some type of plan, some type of structure, okay? What is your day going to look like? How many days you're going to be in the office or work? Are you going to put full-time efforts, part-time effort? Who's going to help you? Those things have to be included there, okay? So at the end of the day, you do your business plan and you decide this might not be worth it. You know what? You spent some time and you did your proper analysis and then decided, you spent an hour or two looking at this, maybe 3, and you decide what's not worth it. That's the worst can happen. Or perhaps you decided, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it differently because the numbers that I ran and how I developed the projections, it's just not going to work on paper. And as I said before, if it's not going to work on paper, it's not going to work in real life. And you'd rather have it fail on paper than in real life. So that's why I believe it is very important to have a business plan. And now the business plan is not set in stone. When you do a business plan for a startup, it's different than when you're doing a business plan for a company that's been around for 2 years. The company will change, it will grow. There are a lot of different factors. So it's a document that will be updated from time to time. And again, it is a guide. It's not something that, okay, but Dave, this wasn't my business plan, I have to do it. No, you're gonna make changes. You're gonna adjust. And part of business ownership is being nimble and being flexible and adaptable. You have to adapt. If you don't adapt as a business owner, you're just not gonna make it. There will be a lot of different things coming at you, okay? But most importantly, you have to keep track of how much money comes in and when it comes in. And understanding your sales cycle, understanding your average sell, understanding the sell that you got to make in order to make a profit. Are you properly charging for your services? Are you undervaluing services? Are you charging enough? Competitive analysis. Who are your competitors? Where are they? How are they ranking in the search engines? Is that important? You have to understand that. So it's a lot of factors that go in. And but more importantly, understand it. Because ultimately, you have to make the decision how you're going to pursue your venture. Nobody else. And you will have to live with whatever it works or it doesn't work. And there's no guarantee as well that a business plan that you write is going to work. Things are unpredictable. But that's the exciting part of being in your business. The unpredictability, the excitement, the independence, and taking the risk. But this will reduce, or at least give you some perspective, how much risk are you taking, but you don't have to go blind if at least you understand these numbers and also the concept that you're trying to create. But I want to tell you again, when you're getting started, I strongly recommend getting a mentor. I'm going to share again this free resource. This is going to be on the show notes that for this episode. It's SCORE, SCORE.org. Check it out. Again, when I've spoken to them, simply I went online and I referred many clients that ask me these questions to them because it's a great resource and it's free of charge. And it can only help you. It's no downside for you to take a look at this website and check it out. And again, I did not even mention the budget you need to have for legal services, especially if you have to have contracts. I don't believe that SCORE provides those contracts, but that's something to check with that website. But you certainly want to have in your team, as you're starting out with your business, you want to have an accountant, CPA, or an accounting firm, and also an attorney that understands business to help you guide through the journey. It's an exciting journey. I strongly recommend it. I've had a lot of time, great times. This is my second or third business now that I pursue, and I will not look back, and I don't have any regrets. Despite of a lot of challenges, I don't look back, and I have a great time with it. So this is good for now. Thank you again for listening. I hope you enjoy this, I guess, a two-part episode of the Business SOS podcast. And this episode, again, is 113. If you want to reach me, you have any questions about any topics that we've covered, including today's, my email is rich@richsierra.com. Again, it's rich@richsierra.com. My website is floridasmallbusinesslegalcenter.com. If you want to check out this audio, this podcast in YouTube, our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@Richard Sierra. If you want to give us a call, our number is 866-842-5202. Again, until next week, this is Rich Sierra. And remember that my goal is to help you succeed.